Picture this. You are staring at a blank computer screen, and the cursor is just blinking at you over and over.
Yeah, the dreaded blinking cursor of doom.
Exactly. You have this looming foundation grant deadline, and your organization desperately needs the funding just to, keep the lights on.
Right, high stakes.
Very high stakes. And you get this panicked urge to just start typing, literally anything, just to get words on the page. We've all been there, right?
Absolutely.
But here's the really hard truth. If you give in to that panic and you just start typing, you have probably already lost the grant.
Yeah, because that blank screen moment, it's not a writing problem at all.
Right.
It is entirely a strategy problem. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the assignment.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. We are looking at Alesha Mathis's framework, the Master Grant Method.
Which is such a brilliant breakdown of this exact issue.
It really is. The core mission today is to decode this totally overwhelming world of foundation grant writing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking private, family, community, corporate foundations.
Right, the whole spectrum.
Yep. And we want to transform that stressful blank page emergency into a repeatable strategic process.
Because today is all about learning how experienced grant professionals think and plan and build long before their fingers ever even touch a keyboard.
Okay, let's unpack this because Mathis introduces a massive paradigm shift right out of the gate here.
A total shift.
Yeah. Before we even look at the mechanics of how to write a proposal, we have to completely change our mental model of what a grant proposal actually is in the first place.
Which is so critical. Her foundational philosophy is that grant writing is a strategic process, right? It is not a writing exercise.
Right, which sounds a little counterintuitive.
I know, it does. And we really have to separate the idea of, good writing from good, great writing.
Okay, wait, explain the difference there.
Well, clear. Engaging writing obviously matters immensely. You do not want to bore the reviewer to tears.
Sure, nobody wants to read a boring application.
Exactly. But brilliant adjectives and sweeping prose, they just cannot fix a weak, poorly conceived project plan.
No, I see.
If your timeline is vague or, the budget numbers don't tie back to the actual activities you just described, upgrading your vocabulary to sound more academic isn't going to save the proposal.
The reviewer will just see right through it.
100%. They're trained to see through it.
So it's less like writing this highly persuasive college essay and much more like pitching a startup to a venture capitalist.
Yes, that is the perfect way to look at it.
You aren't standing there asking for a handout just because you're doing good work. You are offering them an opportunity to invest in measurable community change.
You are building an investment case.
An investment case, right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, think about the mindset of the person reading your application. Every single question in that foundation portal, no matter how strangely it might be phrased.
And they could be phrased very strangely.
Oh, incredibly weirdly sometimes. But they are all fundamentally asking the exact same underlying question, which is this project a wise, reliable investment in our community?
Are you a safe bet?
Exactly. A proposal is just a mechanism to mitigate their risk. That is why we say proposals are built, not written.
Built, not written.
Right. They are constructed through a sequence of very deliberate, highly calculated decisions.
Okay, but I'm going to guess that a lot of listeners are thinking, well, I'm a grant writer. Or at least I've just been handed the job of writing this grant for my nonprofit.
Right, you drew the short straw.
Exactly.
Right.
So they're thinking, if I'm not supposed to just open the application and start answering question 1, what on earth am I actually supposed to be doing?
Well, you build a reusable foundation. And in this framework, it's called the master proposal.
The master proposal.
Right. You deliberately avoid writing a final application for one specific funder right out of the gate. Instead, you create this comprehensive, highly detailed working draft for one specific program. And this becomes your central library of language.
Like a master template.
Yeah, your single source of truth, which you will later pull from and adapt for various different funders.
I know exactly what you're thinking as you listen to this at home.
Yeah.
You're already overworked. You're wearing 5 different hats at your nonprofit, and now we are telling you to write a massive manager proposal document before you even fill out the actual application.
It sounds like a lot.
It sounds like double the work.
Yeah.
It sounds totally exhausting.
It sounds like front-loading the pain, and honestly, it absolutely is.
Right.
But you have to consider the alternative here. The standard approach for a stressed nonprofit professional is the copy-paste scramble.
Oh, the copy-paste scramble. I know it well.
Right. You open a new grant application, you realize you don't have the answers ready, so you dig through 3 old grants from last year,
Yep.
you paste a paragraph from one, maybe a paragraph from another, try to stitch them together.
And then you realize the budget from last year doesn't match the new narrative at all.
Exactly. And you end up spending 10 hours in a state of high anxiety anyway. The master proposal mechanism forces you to do the hard thinking once in a calm environment, so you literally save hundreds of hours of panic later.
Front-loading the pain to save the time. That actually makes total sense when you put it like that.
It's an investment in your own sanity.
But you mentioned something really critical there. You said creating this draft for one specific program.
Yes. Step 1, choose the project.
Because I think a lot of organizations just want to fund their entire existence, right? They want general operating support, so they try to write a proposal that captures every single thing they do under the sun.
And that is a guaranteed way to get rejected by a project-based funder.
Really? A guaranteed rejection.
Pretty much. Reviewers need boundaries. They need to know exactly what their check is buying. If your master proposal is just, we help families in the community.
It's too broad.
Way too broad. The reviewer is left with a million questions. But if the project is a 6-month parent education program focused on early childhood literacy, well, now they have a container.
That makes a lot of sense.
It has to pass the clarity test. Who is served, what happens, where, when, and exactly how much will it cost?
Okay, so once you have that clearly bounded project, step 2 is you have to figure out who might actually fund it. And the framework draws a really hard line here between two concepts that get confused all the time: eligibility and alignment.
This is huge. Eligibility is the bare minimum. It is literally a yes or no question. Can we legally apply?
Right. Do you have your 501c3 tax status?
Exactly. Do you operate in the correct state? Do you meet their revenue threshold? That is all eligibility is. Alignment, on the other hand, is a strategic question. Should we apply?
Should we? Not can we.
Right. Does your specific bounded project actually advance the foundation's stated priorities? Have they funded similar organizations in the past?
Here's how I like to look at it. Eligibility is having a driver's license, right? But alignment is having the right vehicle for the terrain.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah, you might be legally allowed to drive, but if the foundation is funding an off-road mountain expedition, your Honda Civic isn't getting the money.
No, it is not.
You shouldn't even be on that road, which brings up a massive temptation for nonprofits. What happens when you have a Honda Civic, but the only funder in town with deep pockets is asking for off-road vehicles?
Oh, I see where this is going.
The temptation is to slap some monster truck tires on your Civic and pretend, right.
Twisting your project to chase the money, yes, it happens constantly.
Tell me about it.
Well, if a foundation is offering, say, $50,000 for high school workforce training, and you run an after-school art club for middle schoolers.
Completely different thing.
Completely different. But people will try to pretzel their language. They'll start calling their art projects pre-workforce creative problem solving.
Which sounds completely ridiculous when you say it out loud.
It does. But people do it out of sheer desperation. And what's actually happening there is you are setting your own organization up for an operational disaster.
How so?
Let's say you trick the reviewer and you actually win the grant. Now, your staff, who are trained to teach middle school art, they actually have to deliver and report on workforce training metrics.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a nightmare.
You have strained your staff, you've diluted your actual mission, and you have likely guaranteed you won't get funded by that foundation again when you inevitably fail to hit their numbers.
Because you promised something you couldn't deliver.
Exactly. The master proposal protects your integrity. You establish the core truth of your project first, so you know exactly when to walk away from a funder who isn't actually aligned with you.
Okay, so we have defined our specific project. We have found a funder where we have true alignment, not just a driver's license. Now we have to actually build the narrative structure.
The blueprints.
The blueprints, exactly.
Yep.
Step 3. And the framework stresses that you don't just open a blank document and start free writing. You build an outline.
But you have to radically change how you view an outline here.
Okay, how so?
It is not a table of contents. You don't just list headings like history, need, and activities and fill them in. You have to give every single section a specific job.
Wait, what do you mean by giving a section a job?
What question is this section solely responsible for answering, so you don't repeat yourself?
Okay, but if the heading on the application is organizational history, isn't its job just to tell the story of how our nonprofit started?
You would think so, but no.
Really?
Step 4 is the organizational story, and the reviewer does not need a chronological biography of your founder since 1995.
They don't care about the origin story.
Not really. The job of the organizational story section is to act as a credibility filter. Its sole purpose is to prove that your organization has the specific competency to execute the project you are proposing today.
So if we are proposing that youth mentoring program, the organizational story shouldn't spend 3 paragraphs talking about the animal rescue we ran 10 years ago.
Exactly, even if it's a super interesting part of your history.
Right. We just need to establish our readiness, our community trust, and our capacity for the youth work being proposed right now. We basically have to prove we are trustworthy before we even get to explain the problem we want to solve.
Which sets the stage beautifully for step 5, the next architectural block. Defining the need.
The need.
You've proven you are capable. Now, you explain the gap in the community, you bring in your data, the local context, the human reality, but you have to do this without resorting to what Mathis calls a problem dump.
Okay, hold on. Let me push back on this a bit on behalf of anyone who has ever felt the pressure of competition.
Go for it.
If I'm competing against 100 other organizations for a very limited pool of grant money, doesn't it make sense to highlight how dire our situation is?
I hear that all the time.
Right. Like, if I don't make the problem sound totally devastating, if I don't sound incredibly urgent, won't the foundation just fund someone else who sounds like they were in a bigger crisis?
That is the instinct, and it is entirely backward from how professional investors actually think. Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, if you confuse urgency with drama, you become a risk.
Ah, risk again.
Let's look at the psychology of the reviewer. If an organization submits a proposal that reads like a catastrophic end-of-the-world scenario using highly emotional, desperate language,
Right.
the reviewer doesn't think, oh, wow, we must save them.
What do they think?
They think, this situation is completely out of control, and our $20,000 grant is just going to get swallowed up in the chaos without making a dent.
So they see a sinking ship, not a strategic investment.
Precisely. You don't invest in a sinking ship. And beyond that, a dramatic problem dump often forces you into really disrespectful territory.
What do you mean?
You end up shaming the very people you serve just to make your proposal sound more urgent.
Yeah.
And the people in your community are not props to be used for funding.
Oh, that is such an important point.
A strong need statement is evidence-based, highly specific to your local area, and it maintains the dignity of the community.
No.
It just bridges a real documented gap directly to the solution you are about to propose.
So the need statement explains the why. We have established the gap. The next logical piece of the architecture is explaining the how.
Step 6, design the project.
And the framework demands that this section be incredibly concrete. No vague, feel-good jargon allowed.
Reviewers cannot fund vague intentions. The word empower is a classic example of this.
Oh, everyone uses empower.
Everyone uses it. But if you write, we are going to empower local youth, the reviewer has absolutely no idea what your staff is going to do on a Tuesday morning.
Right. Like, what does empower look like at 10 a.m.?
Exactly. Are you mentoring them? Are you feeding them? Are you teaching them how to code software? The project description has to make the work physically visible in the mind of the reader. Who is doing what? Where are they doing it? How often? And with what materials?
And once they can visualize those concrete activities, they're naturally going to ask, well, so what?
Right. What happens after you do all of that?
Which brings us to step 7, defining success. And here's where we have to tackle arguably the most misunderstood concept in the entire nonprofit sector.
Oh boy. Outputs versus outcomes.
Outputs and outcomes. They get tangled up
Constantly. But the distinction is the absolute backbone of evaluating success. Let's define them simply. Outputs are what you do. Outcomes are what actually changes because you did it.
Okay, let's run through a scenario to cement this for the listeners. Let's say my nonprofit runs a winter coat drive.
Okay.
We raise money, we buy coats, and we hand out 500 winter coats to kids in our city. Handing out 500 coats, that is an output, right?
Yes. Outputs measure your effort. It's the volume of your activities. 50 workshops hosted, 300 meals served, 500 coats distributed. You have absolute control over your outputs.
Right, because we bought the coats and we handed them out.
But a funder doesn't invest just to buy coats. They invest to change a condition.
So wait, what is the outcome in that coat drive scenario then?
The outcome is the behavioral or conditional change in the kids who receive the coats. Maybe the outcome is that chronic school absenteeism drops during the winter months because the kids are no longer freezing at the bus stop, so they actually go to school.
Oh, wow, okay.
The outcome is the impact. You measure outputs to prove you did the work, but you measure outcomes to prove the work actually mattered.
But let's get real about what that requires for a second. I am a small nonprofit. Does my team of 3 people really need a massive academic evaluation plan with complex long-term data tracking to prove those outcomes?
It sounds terrifying.
Yeah, because measuring school absenteeism across 500 kids sounds like a full-time job on its own.
What's really encouraging about this framework is that it explicitly gives you permission to keep it simple. Evaluation does not have to be an academic research study to be useful.
Thank goodness.
In fact, an elaborate, complex evaluation plan that looks amazing on paper, but your staff never actually has the time to execute, that is a massive liability.
Because then at the end of the year, the funder asks for the data you promised, and you have absolutely nothing to show them.
Exactly. Simple tracking that is deeply integrated into your daily routine is vastly superior.
Like what?
Like basic attendance sheets, quick pre- and post-program surveys on an iPad at the door, or just tracking referral logs. You just have to be honest with the funder about what you actually have the capacity to measure. Honesty and capability beat impressive fiction every single time.
Track what you can actually track. That is a huge relief.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've pitched a great project. We've promised measurable success. But none of that happens on air in good intentions.
No, it takes money.
It takes money. The foundation wants to know the math adds up today and tomorrow. So we move to step 8, the budget.
The golden rule of the budget is that the numbers must tell the exact same story as your narrative. They have to mirror each other perfectly.
Oh, that makes sense.
If you spent 2 paragraphs in your project design talking about the specialized transportation you provide for the youth, there absolutely must be a line item for transportation costs in the budget. And conversely, if you ask for $10,000 for new software in the budget, you better have explained what that software does back in the narrative.
No surprises. And the framework is very aggressive about not hiding your real costs.
I think there is this myth that nonprofits need to look incredibly lean to be attractive to funders.
Oh, the overhead myth.
Right, so they hide their administrative costs, or they don't list the fact that their executive director spends 20% of their week coordinating this specific project.
Under budgeting to look appealing is a fatal error.
Fatal error.
Truly. Experienced foundation reviewers know what things actually cost. If you submit a budget that is completely detached from economic reality, it doesn't make you look efficient. It makes you look incompetent.
Wow.
It signals that you don't actually understand what it takes to run your own program. If your staff is spending time on it, put that staff time in the budget. Don't hide it.
Tell the true financial story. Which leads us to step 9, the most dreaded question on any grant application.
Sustainability. Sustainability. What happens when the grant money runs out? The framework calls this the most misunderstood section of any grant.
It really is, because the biggest misconception is that foundations expect you to magically become 100% self-sustaining the moment their 12-month grant period ends.
Right, which is impossible for most.
They know that isn't true for most community programs. They know you rely on ongoing funding.
It's like asking an investor for money to build a house, but having absolutely no plan for how to pay the electric bill once the lights are turned on.
Yes.
You have to show you're thinking past move-in day. But how do you do that if you honestly know, deep down, you will still need grant money to run this program next year?
By redefining what sustainability actually means in this context. It doesn't just mean we will replace your cash with someone else's cash.
So what does it mean then?
Sustainability is about building capacity. You can tell a funder, look, your investment is paying for a pilot year. The sustainability is that we will use the data from this pilot to attract major individual donors next year.
Oh, I see.
Or your grant is paying for us to develop a reusable curriculum. Once it's built, our operating costs will drop significantly next year. You just have to prove that their initial investment creates value that lasts beyond the final check.
Sustainability of impact, not just sustainability of cash.
I love that. Okay, so we've built this massive strategic master proposal. The architecture is solid, the budget is honest, the outcomes are clear.
The hard part is done.
Right. Now, how do we get this document ready to actually send out into the real world to a specific funder?
This is step 10, where the framework transitions from building to customizing.
Yeah.
Mathis introduces the RITE method here, W-R-I-T-E.
Okay, break that down for us.
It stands for work the guidelines, reuse smartly, illustrate with stories and stats, tailor the tone and format, and edit then submit.
Let's actually dig into what that customization looks like in practice. Because work the guidelines means the funder's rules override your preferences.
Absolutely. If they want 12-point Arial font, you do not use 10-point Times New Roman just to squeeze more words in.
You'll throw it out. They will. And reuse smartly means you pull the core truth from your master proposal, but you don't just paste blindly. You tailor the emphasis to what they care about.
And illustrate is crucial, right? Stats give the proposal scale, but stories give it a soul.
Exactly. You need both to make it compelling.
Now, as we talk about reusing and tailoring language, we have to address the elephant in the room for any modern strategy. Artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes.
AI.
Where does AI fit into this highly strategic, customized process? Because the framework has a very hard, clear boundary here.
It does. AI is an assistant. It is never the author.
Let's talk about the practical use cases first.
Yeah.
Where is AI genuinely helpful for a grant professional who is staring at a portal deadline?
It is incredible for the mechanical manipulation of text.
Mechanical manipulation.
Right. You can feed AI your beautifully written 500-word master proposal outcome section and tell it to aggressively summarize it to fit a strict 200-character limit for some clunky online form.
Oh, that saves so much time. It's magic for that. You can use it to organize messy meeting notes into a clean outline. You can ask it to review your narrative and point out if you forgot to explain a line item from your budget.
But the boundaries are non-negotiable. AI should never invent facts.
Never.
It should never generate hypothetical outcomes, guess at your budget numbers, or, fabricate fictional community partnerships just because it thinks the proposal needs to sound more collaborative.
Think about it. AI does not know the specific human dynamics of your local community.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't know the actual capacity constraints of your staff.
Right.
It only knows statistical patterns of words. If you let it act as the architect of your strategy, it will confidently hallucinate a beautifully written, entirely generic proposal that your organization cannot actually execute in the real world.
And a seasoned reviewer will spot that hollow AI-generated sheen instantly.
Oh, from a mile away.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means AI can be a great mirror to reflect your ideas back to you and check for clarity, but it cannot be the architect. You are still the grant professional. You hold the ethical and operational responsibility for every single promise made in that proposal.
Exactly. You use AI to refine the expression of your strategy, but the strategy itself must come from the human beings who will be doing the actual work.
Let's take a breath and look back at the ground we've covered today.
I covered a lot.
We really did. We started with a blank screen and a sense of panic, but we've completely dismantled that. Grant writing is not about waiting for inspiration to strike so you can write pretty prose.
No.
It is a strategic build. You stop panicking by taking the process offline. You focus on bounding one specific project. You seek true alignment with a funder, not just technical eligibility. You build trust by treating your history as a credibility filter, and you define a specific respectful need without relying on drama. You clearly explain the tangible activities, rigorously separating your outputs from your actual impact, your outcomes.
That's the core of it.
You tell a truthful financial story with your budget, and you plan for the future with a realistic view of capacity. By front-loading all this work into a master proposal, you banish the blank page panic forever.
And as you think about adapting your own workflow to this method, there is one final, somewhat provocative thought I'd suggest keeping in mind.
Oh, lay it on us.
Well, we spend an enormous amount of our professional lives agonizing over how to ask for the money. But imagine a scenario where your organization received double the funding you are currently asking for and it arrived in your bank account tomorrow.
Double the money tomorrow.
Yes. Would your current infrastructure, your staff, and your systems actually survive the weight of that success? The true hidden value of building a master proposal isn't just that it prepares you to ask for money. It is a diagnostic tool that forces you to ask if your organization is truly ready to receive it.
What an incredible question to sit with. Are we ready for the success we are asking for?
It changes everything.
It really does. Well, thank you for exploring this framework with us. The next time you find yourself staring at that blinking cursor, remember, you are not a desperate writer pleading for help. You are a community strategist offering an investment. Go build your master proposal. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Hi, it's Alesha, and I thank you for watching or actually listening to this deep dive with my AI team. If you enjoyed what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. If you have any questions, please be sure to comment them below, and I, not my AI team, will answer them for you. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.